the words that we are every time negotiating and discussing here and the COPs, will not be able to convert or transfer these words into action. And this is why we find the importance of this event, because we are talking about something that all of us as civil society organizations, governmental organizations, private sector, academia, we all are thinking about those who are affected by the climate and they have to be part of the solutions as they have been part of, or they are the ones who are affected by the issue. Today, we have 5 speakers in our session. We were supposed to have, and we still have, the keynote speaker, Her Excellency Dr. Yasmin Fuad, the Minister of Environment, to join us. She's still in the Africa group meeting that has started some time before us. They did not finish. Her team is waiting for her outside, and whenever she will come, we will welcome her, and we'll give her the floor after whoever is taking the floor finish. She will start and give her intervention. So we have today with us, on my right side, I have one of the co-organizers and the very good supporter also of RAED and very good partner, Dr. Dheaya alrousan. He is the head of the Green Generation Foundation from Jordan. And I have, but unfortunately our Somali Youth Development Foundation, they were not able to make it. So we are very sad that they are not here, but definitely we will send them what we have said here, and we are not going to forget by any way the role of the youth, especially in the most vulnerable communities and the most vulnerable countries like Somalia and the Arab world. And I have on my left side, I have Dr. Mahmoud Fathallah. He is the head of the Technical Secretariat of the Council of the Arab Ministers responsible for the environment, CAMRI, within the League of Arab States. A very strong supporter to civil society and to RAED in specific. And we are very glad that this partnership is going and growing and also achieving many good things for our communities and also our nations in the Arab world. And I have also from institutions, and very important institution in this region is ESCWA, the Economic and Social Commission for West Asia, the UN ESCWA. And here is represented by a friend and colleague, Dr. Hamu, and brother as well, Dr. Hamu Al-Amrani. ESCWA is, we will hear from Dr. Hamu what ESCWA is doing to support the issue we are discussing today of enhancing the resilience of local communities, sorry, and localizing also the adaptation strategies. On the very right side, my friend and colleague, Dr. Ala Serhan, one of the environmental economists in the Arab region, and he is also ex-World Bank. I don't know if this is a good thing or bad, but World Bank expert from the Arab region. Dr. Ala is a professor in the University of Ain Shams and in the Faculty of Environmental Studies and Research. And we are going to hear from him how the science could help in achieving community resilience. And last but not least, but the beautiful part of the panel, the gender issue will be very much achieved when the minister comes. But anyway, we have Dr. Hala Yusri. She is representing the Egyptian Sustainable Development Forum, one of the fora that were established in the last, actually, ESDF was established in 2012 in Egypt, and then later we started to initiate the establishment of other national fora in other countries, and now the total of countries we have is 7 countries. Without taking much of your time, I would like to give the floor first to Dr. Dheaya to give us his intervention and the presentation, and also welcoming on behalf of the organizer. Dr. Dheaya, you have the floor.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Doctor. I'm Dheaya alrousan, Chairman of Green Generation Foundation, and also the Director of Water and Environment Center at the Hashemite University. Let me briefly introduce you about the situation in Jordan and the challenges we are facing there, and I think maybe you are a bit familiar with it. Jordan has a very limited resources from all aspects. If we talk about water, Jordan is ranked in the top of water scarce countries in the world. This rank is different between reports and reports, saying 4th, 10th, whatever, but we are one of the top countries in water scarcity. If we talk about the water deficit, we have like more than 500 million cubic meter a year water deficit. If we talk about the freshwater shares, it's per capita, it's less than 75 cubic meter. Most of our water is shared with other countries. We have more than 40% of transboundary water resources. There's a lot of non-revenue water, which could reach 50%. Most of our dependence on groundwater resources, more than 55% of the water used in Jordan is on groundwater. And to match the high demand, there is over pumping from those resources, so we are losing even our groundwater resources by a deterioration of its quality and increasing the cost of pumping. Later on, I will start talking about the solutions that the government is trying to do to fix those problems. If I transfer to the energy sector, just to show you how much limited resources we have, we import more than 94% of our energy from outside. Most of electricity is like 80% is generated by natural gas that we receive it from different resources, including Egypt. There isn't much dependence on renewable energy. Till now, it's like for electricity, it's 25%. If I'm going to the third important sector, which is agriculture, most of the Jordanian land is desert. Less than, according to FAO, it's less than 10% is arable land, but according to other reports, which I would believe more on it, it's less than 3%. And this arable land is consuming about 50% of water resources and 30% of energy resources. So we have like a lot to be huge deficit, not only in water, but water, energy, and agriculture. To come over those challenges, the Jordanian government had put online a lot of strategies, and we are good in writing strategies, but things is not going always well and achieving them. Over years, I would maybe mention in the last 5 years, we have the green growth strategy, which covers 6 sectors, including water, energy, agriculture, tourism, transportation, and waste. This green growth have a lot of objectives to increase the demand on or to increase the use of renewable energy. It's now 25 for electricity, and to go like to 31%. To reduce dependence on natural gas for transportation and industry, to use local resources, and many other stuff. In terms of this is the green growth strategy. It was established in 2017. Lately, we have the third report of NDCs, and we decided to cut down our emissions. In the last NDCs, it was 14%, and we have raised our ambition in the last COP and make it 31%, 5% depending on local funding, and 26 depending on the outside or from other countries' fund, let me say, or the green fund maybe. And lately we have the climate change adaptation policy. I think it was launched on March this year, and they decided, or they have the ambition to be carbon neutral by 2050, and this depends mainly on what they call it economic modernization vision, that targeting maybe 35 sectors and subsectors with more than 350 initiatives. Unfortunately, all of those strategies and plans, we're still away from achieving them. I would say we have a lot of projects right now in Jordan, but we are looking for more than them. We are doing well with solar energy. There is a lot of fund, even from the government, to encourage people to launch water energy. There is a lot of policies changing to direct people to, for example, what they call it, low water use agriculture, and also to increase the reuse of wastewater. Even we are doing well with wastewater reuse. We are using almost all 90% of the wastewater that generated or collected is treated in Jordan. This is in a brief about the situation in Jordan. If I would move on, I don't know how long I still can have.
We still have like 2 minutes.
Yeah, if I am having some ideas or thinking more about this, I think Jordan, yes, I totally agree. We are suffering from low and available resources. I think we are doing well and should do better in copying the experience from other countries. Maybe more we should have better cooperation between the Arab countries and less depending on the global funding. I think we are sharing a lot of similarity between us, including the weather conditions, the climate, and that stuff on. I don't remember that I mentioned what Jordanian contribute to climate change is just 31.06 million equivalent CO2, which is just only less than or around 0.06%. So we are not really contributing to climate change, but we have a lot of responsibility, and we are responsible to do that in adaptation and mitigation. This is happening in parallel in Jordan between the government, the private sector, and the civil societies. That's all for now, till if we have another round.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Dheaya. And yes, Jordan is the most scarce country in the region when it comes to water availability. The share per capita is the lowest in the region, and of course this puts a lot of emphasis on the importance of having the strategies, actionable strategies, and to do more for the communities. But I can tell you from the experience I got when I visit Jordan that the Jordanians are resilient in terms of how they deal with the water and how they deal with the climate risk, but still we need to do more, as Dr. Dheaya said. Now, and I also forgot when I was making the introduction that we were supposed to have also Nina Berkland with us. Nina is, she is representing the Norwegian Refugee Council, but for some family difficulties in the last 2 days, she couldn't come to Dubai. And we even tried to make it to have her contribution online, but we couldn't do that. I mean, she couldn't do that because of the difficulties she has in Geneva. She is based in Geneva, while the organization is actually Norwegian organization. Now I'm very glad to give the floor to Dr. Mahmoud to tell us how the UNESCO has dealt with this very important topic. Everyone here in the negotiations are discussing the future, and we want to know how we were able to achieve through the UNESCO in the last years and also in the coming years. Dr. Mahmoud, you have the floor.
شكرا دكتور عماد على الدعوة. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be with you today to reflect on what can be done collectively and individually to accelerate action at the local level and make sure that we are providing the local communities with the support they need to be more resilient to the anticipated climate impacts that are going definitely hit the region and hit the region hard, at least harder than other parts of the world. ESCWA's work on climate change is cross sectors and cross clusters in the organization, but it's a dedicated cluster that's dealing with climate change and natural resource sustainability. Work on climate change goes back to more than 10 years now. It has started in collaboration with the League of Arab States, where we developed an initiative known as RECAR initiative, supported by the Swedish government, and working under the umbrella of the Arab ministerial in charge of environment, with the department Dr. Mahmoud is leading. The work done in RECAR initiative has two layers. One is the production of technical knowledge on modeling the impact of climate change in the Arab region by defining for the first time a domain that is called the Arab region domain that was previously split between Africa and Asia. So RECAR has produced the first regional model for the region. The model looks into the impacts from the science point of view, impact on water resources, impact on the key development sectors. The second layer is the support that ESCWA provided for 10 years. So we are celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Arab Negotiators Group. So we are on that track, providing the necessary empowerment to the group through dedicated and customized capacity building for the negotiators. We also produced customized maps anticipating the impact at the country level. ESCWA also produced the vulnerability maps for the region. Where are the hotspots and what kind of actions could be done on the ground for selected countries. And we continue to serve the countries by providing on-demand maps for decision making. We looked into what could be done into adaptation in terms of adaptation in water sector, in agriculture, in infrastructure and cities, and in environment. So the key sectors have a set of defined actions, firstly assessing the vulnerability and proposing actions to be taken to make the local communities more resilient. Work on resilience to climate change includes also work on biodiversity, conservation and restoration as a way to respond to climate change, and we are supporting a platform, a regional platform, that is helping organizations across the region to develop bankable projects that are dealing with biodiversity for climate resilience by reviving and restoring the ecosystems and sustaining the ecosystem services for the local communities, the poor and the marginalized. Work on food systems, how to make the food systems resilient in the region. This also has a couple of components. We are looking into what can be done in support to joint ministerial councils that we initiated with in collaboration with the FAO and the Arab Organization for Agricultural Development. We also look into carbon circular economy as a way to help countries assess their contributions to the reduction of the GHG emissions. And finally, we have a few flagship projects. One of them is the Region project that supports renewable energy access for rural women for productive purposes. How to make or how supports access to renewable energy, particularly the photovoltaic solar power, and make it accessible in terms of equipment, in terms of operation, and in terms of introducing new practices that empower women economically and contribute to the enhancement of the resilience of local communities. So how this links up to the topic of the session. One, resilience of local communities is about institutions, yani working and effective institutions. You cannot make the communities resilient without strong and functioning, inclusive institutions in terms of resource allocation, in terms of sharing the benefits, but also sharing the risks. So that's the first element. The second element, you cannot build resilient communities without capacities. You need to enhance the capacities, enhance the entrepreneurship at the local level, to make rural livelihoods based on incomes generated from initiatives taken by the local communities, benefiting from the assets, natural assets, but also benefiting from new practices. If you want to have a resilient community, you need to have a diverse economy. I mean, relying on farming alone is going to be a high risk when it comes to how climate change is likely to affect the farming in our region. The increasing scarcity of water, the degradation and depletion of land resources, all these elements are factors we need to include in the equation for what the future will be under a changing climate. Resilience of local communities is also resilient ecosystems. So enhancing the preservation of resources and anticipating the change that will happen in our resources is a key element we need to plan for and work for. Finally, before I hand over to Dr. Emad, resilience of communities to the impact of climate change should not wait for the impact of climate change to happen. If you want to have resilient communities, work on them before the climate change happen. And I think this is development, but it's also climate change. And the gray limit between the two is not something we should worry about. If you do good development today, you will be resilient tomorrow. And good development means productive societies, entrepreneurial societies, social protection, green infrastructure, and resilient infrastructure to climate change are those the key things we need to work on collectively, and at the policy level, but also at the ground where the impact will happen and where the damage will happen. I will stop here and hand over to you, Dr. Emad.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hammo, for this presentation. You actually shed the lights on two very important things. Number one, that you already have the information about where we need to work. Where are the areas that needs from us the attention, especially when it comes to the most vulnerable communities. But you also emphasized on the role of institutions. And I think, as you have seen, and I'm sure you witnessed this and you are convinced with this, that the civil society organizations, they are at the frontier. They are the ones that are dealing with the communities on a daily basis. They can ensure, number one, the full engagement of the communities, and also the implementation to happen even with very little resources. So I'm happy that you emphasize on these 2 points, and honestly, I think we still can do more between the civil society and UNSCWA and the League of Arab States in pushing the work and have it more towards our communities. Her Excellency wrote to me now. She said she is on the way, and when she will come, she will, because she had to go back to the meeting. She is actually co-chairing the climate finance group globally between her and the Minister of Environment in Canada. So this is why, and because she is committed to come and give her intervention. So I told her, okay, if you come, you make your intervention, and then you go back to your meeting, but at least she wants to be part of this session. So based on the agenda we have here, I should give the floor to Dr. Hala. But Dr. Hala, I think he will be very flexible if Her Excellency Dr. Yasmin comes, that you welcome her and give her
the floor, and then continue later.
And then we continue.
Yes,
so it will
sure.
be between Dr. Yasmin and Dr. Hala. Dr. Hala.
I'm easy and flexible anyway. Good evening, everybody.
We're still good morning.
Almost.
Yeah, it looks like it's in the evening here.
Yeah.
One more lights and all this, but we're still good morning.
I'm happy and delighted to be around you all here. Thank you, Dr. Emad, for your invitation to be within the great panelists we have here today, and with the great guests that you are always more than welcome to join RAED's activities and to get to know more about our activities in all Arab states. I'm really proud to be part of RAED, which has a long history. We were talking about it last night, and we are having lots of hope for planning ahead for the future too. We are all aiming for resilient communities, and we still have fragile and sometimes very fragile communities. So how can we move from fragile system to resilient system? And why? Why? Easy answering. End poverty, create job opportunities, having greener economy, better life for our people, equality in gender perspective, food security, water security, national security based on all other elements. So it's a great target. We all have to work to have these targets. National entities are working pretty fine with the help of regional organization and UN organization. But we never forget the civil society organizations who really reaches the grassroots and know exactly what there are real needs. Localization is one of the key success words where we get to know the real needs from the grassroots, and we translate that into action. The people themselves, they have to talk about the real needs, about their problems. We always hear, we have the engagement of the local community. and we see only the local communities are present with no talking, but using only ears to listen. No, I don't want them to use only ears. I need them to use their minds, to use their tongue, to use all kinds of participation. We always find lots of the documents says that we have hundreds of participants attending our events, conferences, seminars. And this is the figure they always use. I don't need this figure. I need how many local initiatives came from the grassroots. How many women related to men who are there. Handicaps, are they participating in decision making on the grassroots? What are their problems? I need to hear from them. I don't need them to hear me. I'm coming from the capital, I'm coming from academia. No, I don't need this. The best solution we always talk about it these days is national-based solution. And a lot of international organization is talking about national-based solution. Yes, chapeau, but it has to be coming from the grassroots. We need plans with socio-economic and environmental-based solutions coming from the grassroots, from local communities. Hala, do you mean that we will disregard science and technology? No, I don't. But first step, I want to hear from the local community. Then science and technologies would introduce what's new, what can help them to have a better life. Have this discussion, maybe adapt these technologies, and then this plan can be funded. So this interactive dialogue that takes place with the local communities, this is our target. And this is how we should deal with our local communities, targeting to have a resilient communities, not only for climate change, and if you excuse me, Dr. Hammo, not only for climate change, but to keep the biodiversity, for disaster management, for having their big dreams coming to be true. This is my dream, to have resilient communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hala. As usual, you are talking from inside, very deep in your heart, and I feel it all the time, but I can tell you that the way we are as civil society looking at the challenges, it's also the way that we can find many solutions, especially when it comes to communities, because most of the solutions we are talking about are already there. I heard yesterday, I was in a meeting, and I heard the Minister of Water Resources in the Netherlands, in the Global Nature Hub, or Global Dialogue Hub. So I forgot the name of the hub, but it was a big meeting. And I was really impressed when she said, please go to the north coast of Egypt and you will learn how communities were able to find nature-based solutions for the sea level rise by just, having, the dunes, the sand dunes that is, naturally built with this wind, and the fences that were built from materials, very low-cost materials, and actually, again, nature materials that were used. And the minister, I was really proud that she is giving an example from the Arab region, and she's putting it as a model that she wants people to go and learn from. So this means, and when you look at the project, you find the Green Climate Fund, the GCF, is saying that this solution came from the communities. It did not come from science. It did not need technology, but the citizen science was very important to provide the solution. So I'm sure in Jordan, when I visit also the farmers that are affected by the drought and the climate change risks there, I was really impressed also with the information and the knowledge with the farmers. I was even impressed that many of them, they speak fluently, they speak English. So I was, for us, it's something very difficult in Egypt to find a farmer that he speaks anything but Arabic. The same thing, but Dr. Hamou here is not representing Morocco, but he is from Morocco. But when I go to Agadir and I see how the communities were able to find solutions for, also that based on nature and also helping the resilience of the communities. All what we need to do is to have, as Dr. Hamou said, we need to strengthen the institution working on that, and we need to have more partnerships to have to extend what we are doing to be on a larger scale and to have more impact at the local level, which definitely will be reflected on the national, regional, and global. Now, it will be your turn, Dr. Ala. But before I give you the floor, Dr. Ala, I would like to ask Dr. Mahmoud, are you, because we agreed that when whenever you are ready, you will tell me, but I'm not sure if you told me or not. But are you ready now?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please, Dr. Mahmoud Fathallah, the head of the Technical Secretariat of CAMRI, the Council of the Arab Ministers, responsible for the environment in the League of Arab States.
Thank you, Dr. Emad. It's a pleasure for me always to be with you and this very important subject. I think as I represent League of Arab States and enhancing resilience for local communities, how we can do that? It's all about enabling policies. We have an institutional framework to deal with this problem, as usually in the League of Arab States, depending on what's so-called specialized ministerial councils. We have two main ministerial councils linked to this problem directly. And the other council is connected in this, in this regard, not directly. Let me say that the Environmental Council and also Meteorological Council. Environmental Council is a council that is responsible for the policies and enabling policies for all stakeholders in this regard, such as NGOs. I think all NGOs or number of NGOs is already observers in these councils, and this council is mainly support awareness programs and training and education programs to help people for dealing with this, to be resilient in this regard. So,
Your Excellency, Dr. Mahmoud Fathallah, he knows that, and he is, of course, very much pleased to give the floor to Her Excellency, Dr. Yasmin Fuad. We are very proud that you are with us today. Let me tell you in one sentence, Dr. Yasmin Fuad, she came from this group, and she's working with this group, and she will continue being with this group. The civil society, local authorities, local people, communities. And today, Your Excellency, we are talking about community resilience, localizing strategies at the very local level, and helping the communities, that most vulnerable communities that are affected by the climate risks. And we know that you are taking a very important role, many roles, but one of them that you are co-chairing the group on climate finance, the one that we were talking about, and Dr. Hammo, and Dr. Mahmoud Fathallah, and Dr. Hala, and Dr. Dheaya, we were all talking about local strategies, but at the same time, we cannot do anything without having finance. Definitely, the local strategies and capacity development is important, but also finance is important. You have a lot of things to do and to say, and you have only a few minutes to be with us, so please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Emad, and I'd like to express my thanks and appreciation to RAED, as well as the Green Generation Foundation, as well as the SYDF, and definitely the Arab League, for hosting this important event at a very timely manner. And I mean it timely because we are in the last 48 hours of negotiation, awaiting the text to come out from the COP28 president. And this is a moment that I would say is very important to all of us. It's very important to all developing countries, very important to a continent that's most vulnerable to the impact of climate change, name it the African continent or the Arab countries. And we have been awaiting that moment for quite a long time. For the last 2 years, there was that dream of achieving a target or a global goal on adaptation. Like when Paris Agreement said below 2 degrees Celsius, there was nothing on adaptation and resilience. And we've worked hard as much as we can, countries, government, organization, researcher, and civil society with their data and their evidence that the most hit hard are the vulnerable communities. So we hope that we come out from COP28 with a target for a global goal on adaptation and a time bond. I'll speak later on finance, but let me emphasize on one thing that's very important and very much relevant to the session that you're having today, enhancing resilience of local communities and localizing adaptation strategies. One, without the people and the knowledge of the people, we will not be able to move from the global goal that we talk about to the national adaptation plan to the local interventions. And in fact, they are the people who are teaching us and showing us how best to adapt and make resilience. I can recall 15 years ago, I recall Emad when he was saying that I'm coming from the civil society, and that's true because that was a big bulk of my education and journey of my experience. I can recall the watershed projects in Sudan and Egypt, and how the local community with their traditional knowledge, were able to anticipate the rainy season and how that rainy season changes and how they need to change their agricultural practices in order to adapt and be more resilient. And that's the reason why I'm saying that the local community and the most vulnerable are the one who provided evidence and who teach us every day how best to adapt and be resilient. Secondly, on the national adaptation plans, every country has been trying to open up a multi-stakeholder participatory process to ensure that the priorities in the plan are those that are coming from the most needed and the most vulnerable through a bottom-up approach. But in fact, and that's where I'm going to talk about finance, without having the means of implementation on capacity development, technology transfer, and finance. And what is very much needed from my point of view, very humbly, we're trying to put that in the text because at the end of the day, we only have text and decisions that are converted into projects and programs at the national level, is that whenever we're talking about adaptation and resilience, the private sector pitch-in is not feasible and is not bankable. But in fact, they are the one that should be aiming towards more adaptation only if the international financial system has been reformed in the right way, that the multilateral development banks, and I'm glad that we have an expert from a previous World Bank colleague, Dr. Alawneh, regardless that you appreciate being a researcher and expert in the field by nature, if they do business differently, if they would pitch their money to de-risk the private sector to invest in food security, to invest in water security, to invest in big projects that would bring the small farmers and the small household and the small fishermen to be able to adapt and be more resilient. So I hope that we would be able to give that gift and present in this COP28 to those who own it, to the most vulnerable, and have such a paragraph in the decisions for the CMA and the COP. Last, I think that one of the things that Egypt has been dreaming of is to support those that are in most need, especially in a continent like Africa that has to pay the price every day from the floods, from the heat waves, from land degradation, for things that they did not do, or the children would have to pay that price. And for that reason, we knew that there are issues for the continent to access finance, issue for the continent to develop a database analysis and processes, and do evidence-based research on how the needs could be best articulated to be able to get the money, if the money is there. So for that reason, we just launched last week the first center, African Resilience and Adaptation Center with the NEPAD that's hosted in Cairo. And that center does not need to be actually a center that provides funds. It facilitates the access of the financial mechanisms, different financial mechanisms, whether that would be the Global Environment Facility, the Adaptation Fund, Lease Development Fund, or the GCF, or other funds, in order to be able to put in place evidence-based local data that would make the continent get the fund in an easy way without having to repeat the draft of the proposal to get a 5 million thousand and a thousand of times. I hope Egypt would be able to give that, because we owe to give that to the continent and to every vulnerable community. And I thank once again every single one that is in this room. I can see colleagues and friends, and the packaging of the representation that is in this room. And I promise, Emad, that I will be here, and I came, but I have to run to the negotiation once again. So thank you very much.
Applause, don't move, don't move. If you allow me, I can give only one person one question. If someone has something to ask Their Excellency before she leaves. If anyone, if
ما
from
حدش
the,
عنده أي سؤال. ما حدش، هم زي الفل.
يمكن from the panel, if someone from the panel wants to ask you any question. Okay, I give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3. Oh, here. Okay.
شكرا. دكتور اسف انا راح اتكلم باللغه العربيه.
اتفضل.
احنا ننتظر فلان وعلان عشان يحل مشاكلنا. عندنا الزكاة، ايه اللي عملت حكوماتنا فيها؟ الاوقاف، ربا البنوك، الخمس الشيعي، العائد من استثماراتنا بالخارج، الصناديق السياديه. الكويت لوحدها تستطيع ان تسترجع 23 مليار دولار بالسنه من الضرائب المدفوعه على ارباح استثماراتها بالخارج. دول مجلس التعاون كلها قادره على هذا الامر. حكوماتنا سوت، خذت من الضرائب. ايه العائد من الضرائب اللي اخذت منا وكيف صرفت علينا؟
طب انا ارد عليك.
الوزيره ترد على دي.
ارد عليك. انا موافقاك جدا في ان هناك قد تكون هناك مصادر تمويل او اموال لم تصرف في محلها، بس خليني ارجع لك تاني بما ان انا يعني موجوده في البروسيس من زمان. لو احنا عملنا كده حضرتك دلوقتي هنبقى ريحنا جدا الدول المتقدمه. المسؤوليه المشتركه متباينه الاعباء في اتفاق باريس كانت واضحه، خاصه فيما يخص التكيف، موضوع زي اللي احنا بنتكلم عليه. التمويل وتمويل المناخ، واحد يجب ان يتم فصله عن تمويل التنميه. 2 يجب ان يكون من الدول المتقدمه اللي تسببت في الانبعاثات وقت الثوره الصناعيه الى الدول الناميه، يجب ان يكون في صوره منح للتكيف وليس قروض. وبالتالي لو انا النهارده، ودي من ضمن النقاط اللي بيتم التفاوض عليها، فتحت مصادر التمويل لكافه المصادر بما فيها بقى الكاربون برايسنج والعائد من الضرائب زي ما حضرتك بتقول، هبقى انا حليت لهم المشكله.
شو
شفت العلامات التجاريه؟ مايكروسوفت، جوجل، LG، سامسونج.
NGO.
موضوع انهم دفع لنا منح او بعثه دراسيه واحده فقط لعيالنا من الكويت فقط. عندنا 200,000 علامه تجاريه قدمت الى وزراء الصناعه والتعدين في العالم العربي ولا واحد عمل شيء.
فعلا we need to يا دكتور. صح.
4 مليار دينار بالسنه لكل دوله عربيه.
شكرا يا دكتور. شكرا يا دكتور. عايزين نفكر بره الصندوق اكيد، بس هطلب قبل ما علي الوزيره ما تمشي لو بس حاجه بره البروتوكول، هناخد صوره واحنا واقفين على البانل للبانلست بس. صوره. شكرا. ميرسي.
انا هلف من هنا عشان اسلم على غيرك.
ميرسي دكتور ياسمين، ميرسي يا روح.
طبعا كان حاجه تشرفنا مع الوزيره وجودها معانا هنا اهو في هذا الحدث الجانبي. ومع الوزيره هنا كمان دكتوره فاطمه زرواتي موجوده هنا. مع الوزيره فاطمه زرواتي. شكرا يا جماعه، نشكر مع الوزيره. احنا كنا بنسمع دكتور محمود. We were listening to Dr. Mahmoud Fathallah and also learning from how the League of Arab States is supporting through the two councils. And please go ahead, Dr.
Thank you again, Dr. Emad. Back to our subject, I talked about the enabling policies for the NGOs, and also I talked about the mandate of the two councils and how to enable communities in this regard. The first one is enabling policies by training and education and also awareness program. One policy is very important is technology transfer and localization, because localizing technology to be to fit in local communities is very important in this regard. The effort in coastal area protections is very important also. Now I would move to the the second council is regarding the metrology. Metrology councils is mandated by the early warning system. Early warning system is very important to help people before the crisis is happen. Arab ministers of metrology endorsed the early warning for all, and there is we have Arab Arab COF is committee to prepare a seasonal forecast for the Arab region. Seasonal forecast is very important to help farmers for planning and to know if there is an extreme weather would be happened. Those are the main councils dealing with this problem. But what about other councils? Our councils is in a coordination with those councils, such as electricity, and for helping people by using renewable energies in a distributed production for electricity without need for connecting to the grid. Also, we have social council, which is provide a social support for people's having impacted by climate change. So those are, as I know the time is very limited,
Yes,
so those are the main characteristics or the main overview about the institutional framework of under the umbrella of the League of Arab States.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahmoud. This was very insightful. And also, as Dr. Yasmin noticed from, in a very smart way, that we were able to bring all the different actors in a very good way. We have the UN agency responsible or very closely working with countries on this. We have the League of Arab States, we have the academia, we have the NGOs, we have the local communities. So you have put also what can make the picture from the policy at the regional level, especially the role of the League of Arab States is very important. Yes, it helps in education and training and awareness raising. And also now we are getting closely to issues like early warning system and helping the countries to understand where are they going and how they can deal with the risks from the different angles. Now, Dr. Ala Sarhan, I don't know from which part he is going to get into this topic, but definitely with his background as an environmental economist, as also a World Bank expert, as also part of the civil society at some point, I think he has a lot to say about this. You have the floor, Dr. Ala.
Thank you very much, Dr. Emad. I'd like to thank you all for coming today, and thank you, Dr. Emad, for your kind invite for me to be within this distinguished panel. So I thank you. And this is the exact same question I've been asking myself, what exactly I'm going to be saying. So thank you for reminding me that I have to say something. But I think what I'm going to do is, I'm very fortunate that I'm the last speaker, that I can reuse and recycle what everyone else has said, especially with the minister talking about climate finance. And I think this is a very important link. But my segue, before I start talking about climate finance, I just need to pick your brains up, since I'm the last speaker. So before you go, maybe I would like to pick your brains on certain things. When we came out of Rio 92, we were talking about our motto is think global, act local. The problem with thinking local is that some of the local communities, they are extremely vulnerable to the impacts, to the dire impacts of climate change, not just to impacts of climate change. This could be exacerbated by the fact that they are stricken by poverty, or they do not have the infrastructure that is able to withstand or to be able to take this challenge on. So this is very important. That's why today we're talking about enhancing resilience of local communities. But I just need to make a link between what we used to say in the past, or actually we still do, fragile ecosystems and vulnerability or vulnerable communities. What is the difference between fragility and vulnerability? I think it's very important, because fragility, if you look it up in some of the dictionaries, they would tell you that this is something broken, this is something fragile, this is something that's so, if you touch it, it's gone. But vulnerability, the good thing is that even though it's more or less broken, but it's able to, we are able to work with vulnerability so that we're able to improve things and improve the living conditions, improve so many things. So the good thing about vulnerability is that there is hope, there is something positive that we can do. So what can we do about it? First of all, I think it's been said. I'm not going to say anything that you have not heard today, but maybe I'm going to take it from a different perspective or different angle. First of all, we need to understand and identify what resilience of our local communities mean. So I think it's important that they anticipate, local communities are able to anticipate or predict, and that's what Dr. Mahmoud has said about early warning systems, so that's very important. Then they need to prepare. So they need to have a strategy, or they need to have a plan, an action plan. Okay, so we know that this is coming our way. What do we need to do? And then to respond, you need to have the infrastructure to be able to respond. And the ability, all this is, we need to measure the ability to do all this, to anticipate, to be able to prepare and respond. But finally, so what happens when we are faced with those impacts? Then we would need to recover. That's where hopefully the compensation fund comes in. I'm just trying to connect the dots, because we don't need to wait until things happen. We need to be prepared. And I think that's how we need to have, not just to be able to adapt, but also to have resilient systems in place so that the local communities, especially the ones who are the most affected, who are the ones who are the most, again, I don't want to keep on using vulnerable, but some folks, some communities, because again of their incomes, because of the infrastructure, they are not able to deal with the issues like other communities. So I think here's where we can come in and we say, so what do you guys need? We know that local knowledge, as the minister said, is very important. And حضرتك قلت كمان Dr. Mahmoud, okay. Local knowledge is very important because they know better than we do. So what do we need to do? Is that we go and talk to them. That's where civil society comes in. That's where we can come in. We go and talk to them and say, guys, how would you do it if you're faced with this? But then they need to be enabled, they need to be empowered, and they need to have finance. Nothing's going to move without any finance. We know that. You need early warning system. How do you do that? You need to have the hardware. You need to have simulation models. You need to have satellites. You have lots of things. So that's where climate finance comes. How are you going to mobilize climate finance? Domestic resources and international resources. The minister mentioned something very important, which is international cooperation. We need international cooperation. We need the international community. I'm not going to go into the historical responsibility of countries and point fingers at people. No, I think we're going to say, moving forward, we need to be more positive and say, how are you guys, how are we going to work together in order to be able to protect our people and enhance their quality of life. In Egypt, let me talk about one program, if I may, Dr. Ahmed. One program in 2019, it was an initiative by the President of Egypt, Fathallah Sisi. It's called Decent Life. So it's Haya Karima. And the one thing which I can share with you is that we are trying to make communities, local communities, have the infrastructure that is able to bear the consequences of any kind of impacts or shocks, let it be climate change or whatever. But I think it's very important because we are trying to maintain the quality of life of people for the next generation by helping them have resilient infrastructure, by having a decent life, if you will, because that's how we are able to adapt and move on. Because I think I think we're beyond the point whereby we could say that our countries like Egypt, for example, we're a major contributor. We're not a major contributor, but at least we can work together to be able to make our communities, especially the ones that are less fortunate than the others, to become more protected. We can take certain measures right now to do that. One of them is early warning systems. The second is the infrastructure. Education and awareness is extremely important because without education and awareness, I don't think the local communities would be able to participate in a sort of a participatory approach. We need them to be part of the solution. Nature-based solution, yes, they know best, but this comes also with the local knowledge. So we have to we have to connect both local knowledge with nature-based solution, and then the government has to provide some sort of a platform or a vehicle, or if you will, somehow that we could work with the private sector to incentivize the private sector to go into the local communities and do all these resilience and adaptation measures. One of them is to be able to provide, to de-risk the whole thing, because risk is the biggest problem for the private sector to go into local communities. So I think it takes two to tango. So I think here it takes more than two in order to be able to come up with enhanced resilient communities. I thank you very much, and I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ala. You said a lot. Yes, you built on what was said, but also you gave a lot of good points that we have to think about while we are thinking about and take into consideration while we are doing this localization and strengthening the local communities. I will open the floor for if any comments or question from the floor. هيثم, where is هيثم? الميكروفون هناك يا هيثم, بس لو حد يساعدك. If we have questions, and then Dr. Islam, Engineer Islam has a question. We'll see, and then also ladies there, but to start with Islam. And yeah, we have 3 people. Yeah.
بعجالة شكرا جزيلا دكتور عماد. أنا سؤالي الأول للدكتورة الرائعة الدكتورة هالة في موضوع اللي هي nature based solution.
I will translate the question.
نعم. ومعارفنا التقليدية العميقة، هل هناك ما يمنعنا من استخدامها بالتوائم مع التكنولوجيات الحديثة؟ لأنك حضرتك حكيت في هذا الموضوع بطريقة رائعة. وسؤالي للدكتور الروسان، يعني رغم كل الإجراءات اللي تمت في الأردن والاستراتيجيات ماذا بعد؟ أكيد هو الحل من الله راح يجي، ولكن لازم في حلول معقولة تحل مشكلتنا بالأردن. وأنا يعني شايف أنا وياك اليوم عطشانين جدا، فتصور وضعنا بالأردن. شكرا جزيلا.
The point raised is that how can we combine the nature-based solutions coming from the society, the citizen knowledge with the technology and the new ideas, how this could be done together. And then the other question, how we can really make or operationalize the strategies that we have in Jordan. And so one, Dr. Hala, and one to Dr. Dheaya. Please, the lady, yeah, please. لا ثانية واحدة دكتورة هالة. I will take the questions first and then we'll have the answer. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Diana Steentoft. I'm the Secretary General of the World Blind Union. We have a number of members also in the Arab region of mainly organizations of the blind. What I would like to ask are actually two questions. One question pertains to the gathering of information from local communities. How are these processes of getting information about what are the struggles and how can we build resilience? How are they made inclusive of all groups? And the second thing is, how can we bring issues of accessibility even closer to the local communities? Because what we find, at least with us, is that quite often lack of access to information actually comes in the way of, for example, accessing early warning systems, financial resources, green jobs, and so on. So if any of the panelists could say something about accessibility and inclusive processes, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that Dr. Hamo has something to respond to that, and also Dr. Mahmoud, if you would like. And if any one of the panelists would like to say that, please go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Omar and I'm from Jordan. First of all, I would like to thank you so much for spotting the light on at this very important topic. My question to you is directly about what are the contributions that we have to take into consideration, I mean at all levels, municipal level, governmental, civil society level, to make sure that both local community people and indigenous people, who are by definition the expert leaders of the communities, who knows, I agree with this question that was talking about the same, we are on the same page, that was talking about that the local community people and indigenous people who are the expert leaders of communities and who are who are known what are the struggles of these communities and how this will help in financing our way towards adaptation and adaptive capacity. That's my question.
Thank you very much. Do I have any, yeah? Oh, yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Benjamin. I'm actually a city planner, and I've been working around the aspect of resilience and inclusion. And my quick comment and question was like how, knowing that urbanization would be a major key driver for numbers of solution and innovation, and I don't think we touched upon the urban issues here, but how do you see cities and local governments in particular as being part of the solution? And do you have any example you could share from the region as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Here, Hannah Haytham Bussel.
Thank you. I had a question for Dr. Ala. You mentioned, in a sense, that you're turning a blind eye on the history of a lot of countries and the contribution towards the environment, and we should start anew towards the future, correct? I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more and address, in my opinion, I think it's important to look and view all the historic patterns, and that we would not repeat those patterns, perhaps, of the environmental contributions, either it's negative or positive for such countries. That's my opinion, but I was wondering if you could just elaborate on that and how that can be very helpful for today's topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Youssef. I don't see any more questions. We might have another round, but let me give the floor now to the panelists. Dr. Hala, you would like to respond to the point came from Engineer Islam?
Sure. Natural-based solution, and as we heard for Her Excellency, she said we are seeking solutions bottom up. So diagnose the problems through the indigenous people, through the local people, through farmers, and marginalized people. This is the best diagnosis. This is one thing. Then they may suggest ways of solutions. And here we mingle the technology and science with their solutions. And this will be the perfect formula to be applied to the local communities. Why? Because it's socially accepted, culturally accepted. And since it's coming from science and technology, so it will be economically accepted. And definitely it will be environmentally okay. This is regarding to the national-based solution. For data and information for my friend here, data collection happens on the national level. And this is, like statistics you have. But for certain projects, for certain activities, data needs to be collected throughout people from the grassroots who are trained to collect data for certain things. And with these kind of data has to be disaggregated. Sex disaggregated data, age disaggregated, with all the socioeconomic characteristics, so you can have a good plan of action for intervene to these communities, targeting resilient communities with the participation of every single one in the community, not only the leaders, not only the heads, no, male and female and everybody. Thank you.
شكرا دكتورة هالة. دكتور ضياء اتفضل.
Thank you, Dr. and Islam, for your question. If you are asking how to do it, I think and do believe if there is a will, there is a way. So maybe we don't have the will yet, but having this will need a lot of collaborative work together. We need, this could look like a conclusion of all what we said, that we need not to leave anyone behind. We need to work collectively. We need to work in community-based solutions and natural-based solutions. We need to increase knowledge and awareness among people, and this maybe answer also the question of the lady there. Like, we have really very lack of knowledge among community. We do believe sometimes that, yeah, people were aware of climate change, but actually if you did and read some well-structured studies, you will find there's a very low level of knowledge about climate change. This even being done among educated and university students, people who should know and more about this. But if we go the people uneducated, things goes worse. Worse. This last COP, when I've been in Egypt, I've been in a taxi. Maybe it's better to say that in Arabic anyway. لما ركبت التاكسي فسايق التاكسي بيسألني أنت من جماعة المؤتمر؟ حكيت له بحكي لي هو مؤتمر ايش؟ قلت له تغير مناخي. فبحكي صفن هيك شوي وبعدين بحكي لي طب انتوا عاوزين تغيروا المناخ ليه؟ Actually.
So the taxi driver asked him why you are here. He said we are attending the conference. Which conference? He said about the climate change, and he asked him why you want to change the climate.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot of collective work together. Hopefully I answered your question.
Thank you, Dr. Dheaya. Dr. Mahmoud, you want to respond to something, or Dr. Hamu, please?
Maybe the collecting data. I think data quality in the region or in the developing countries as a whole is not usually as good for targeting people, as the targeting policies needs micro data, and this is very lack in the region. But I think in the era of innovative technologies, I think this is pretty easy than before. And also there is some initiative in this regard before targeting vulnerable peoples in local communities. This is link with Dr. Ala in Haya Karima. This is yes, and there are some other initiatives in the Arab regions. I think Jordan and Morocco have another initiative in this regard. Thank you.
Dr. Hamoud, please. Thank you, Dr. Mahmoud.
أشكرك دكتور عماد.
I think you have like 2-3 points you have to respond. And we have less than 7 minutes, you and Dr. Ala later. And then we say thank you to everyone.
في الواقع استمتعت بالأسئلة زي ما استمتعت بالعروض.
You want to do it in Arabic or English?
Okay, sorry. Nature-based solutions يعني عشان نحط كمان position the discussion in the context of the region. Secular practices in oases in the region. They have survived extreme climate events over centuries. And our oases are a lab case of what good nature-based solutions do and what they cannot do. بس كمان يعني the nature-based solutions should be supported by not only in terms of protection, but in terms of intervention to revive those nature solutions that have been depleted over years. Another example is the role of forest in the region. Forest used to be dynamic ecosystems that provide not only energy, they provide livelihoods, and they protect the soil. The depletion of the ecosystems over the region is no longer at a stage where we can only preserve and conserve. We need to do more. Let me give you a very simple example. In northern Syria, before the conflict, one of the regions was overgrazed and depleted as a result. And after the conflict, and the mines in the region were supposed to make this part of Syria not accessible to the herders and livestock to use the resources in the region. So theoretically, that region should be automatically rehabilitated, but nothing happened. So it means that conservation of what could be a nature-based solution is not enough. You need to do more. And in the region, we need to do specific things that we cannot import. We need to customize what do we mean by nature-based solutions, what kind of investment and what kind of return for investment to make the sustainability of the ecosystem, serving the communities and contributing to the mitigation of climate change from both adaptation, mitigation, and co-benefits. Access to information. Which information for what? I remember I was told in southern Morocco years ago, when we were trying to collect some data from the community, we were asked the question, why every time you come to count us and to count our resources? So unless the data you are looking for is making sense to those that you are trying to enhance and empower, it will be difficult to collect data. But if the purpose is clear to the communities that the information they will be providing will be used as a basis for decision making, including them at the design stage, The information is, and now the kind of information we can get through the smartphones, even at the very village level, is getting, is growing and easier to collect. Access to information, I like that proposal, and I think if there has something we can do, and it happens even at the country level, at the government level, you can see that there are opportunities for finance that people can access, but they just don't know about them. So if it happens at that level, the people in the academia, in powerful organizations don't know this information on access to finance, then we have a problem. So it's another kind of inequality, that is inequality to access information that will allow access to finance that will have an impact on communities' livelihoods. That's also an issue, not only at the global discussion, but at the national level. People don't know that there are opportunities. Urban resilience, I also very much appreciate your question. So, we tend to deal with resilience in a kind of even approach. Rural resilience is absolutely different from urban resilience. And if there is a real threat for GDPs in the region, it's the threat on cities, where more than 70% of our GDP is generated. So for the region, we have to be concerned about cities for a very simple reason. Our cities are fragile. They have been waves of migration due to ill development in the rural areas that led to the rural-urban migration that created cities that are not resilient. Informal settlements are an issue across the region. If you don't have the minimum infrastructure for basic services, then this is a situation where the city is condemned, and any climate extreme events will have dramatic consequences on people. So I think making the cities resilient means climate-proof infrastructure, learning from the experience in unsustainable development across the region in the new cities. Across the countries in the region, there are a lot of mushrooming new cities, expanding cities. At least in those new cities, make sure that you have a drainage network in case it rains more than the average. Make sure that we anticipate for what we know will be heavy rains, short time beyond the annual average, and integrate this in the planning. And make sure that the future planning is sustainable planning for climate-proof cities to reduce inequalities.
The bomb is going to explode in 15 seconds. So, Dr. Ala, can please. At the end of my 3 seconds, I would like to thank everyone. Shukran jazilan. Thank you very much for being with us. Whoever has still one point, comment, or question that was not clear, please don't leave us moving without having the answer. I would like to thank all our panelists. Please give them a very good applause. And thanks to our technical team here. They were very good and excellent in supporting us. And have a wonderful last day of events before we start to hear about the results of this COP. Thank you very much and have a very good day.